Thank you. Yes. So now, welcome to our contemplative time in the service. I will do a reading followed by a time of silence. Then Jackson will sing, and then I will follow with a treatment. So I invite you now to go within, settle in, be comfortable. As I do, the reading is a little different today. When I heard the theme, Share the Dream, I just kept thinking of this song by Sigmund Romberg, Stout-Hearted Men. And so I start with the original words, and then, excuse me, Oscar Hammerstein, Frederick Mandel, and Lawrence Schwab, I sort of changed a lot of the words to kind of fit in with our teaching. So here we go. You who have dreams, if you act, they'll come true. 2, turn your dreams to a fact, it's up to you. If you have the trust in the spirit, never fear, it'll see you through. Hearts can inspire other hearts with their fire. For the truth attracts when the God-centered folks show the way. Vision a world filled with love, truth, and joy, where we all are united together. God's love reigns supreme and it guides everything, so we all are at peace with each other. Heart sparking heart, strong in faith from the start, guiding good to the earth evermore. Then there's nothing in the world can halt or mar this plan. When we join in truth, together stronger in our stand.
Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know.
Be still and know that I am that God spark within me. I know right here and right now, as I focus on this God spark, I see it growing stronger and brighter within me. So strong and bright that it guides me to my highest and best and sparks everyone else around me to their highest and best. For I am that God spark bringing light to the world, uplifting it, uplifting us all. This is the truth. I let it be. Thank you, God. And so it is.
Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know.
Thank you very much, Catherine and Jackson. That was perfect. When I moved to, I met Reverend Helen Street at a Silmar. You guys know what a Silmar is, the conference grounds here in California. I met Reverend Helen Street there. One day, I noticed this table full of people that were laughing and talking, and they were sitting outside the dining hall because some of them were smoking, and I happened to be walking by, and the energy was so good, and I thought, wow, I'd like to know these people. And I stood there for a while, and then after a while, Reverend Helen asked me who I was. I introduced myself to her, and she said to me, so what's your dream? And I said, well, I'm going to be a minister. And she said, well, what does that look like? And I said to her, well, physically or mentally, or what are you asking? And she says, start with physically. So I told her that my perfect church would be somewhere that was in the mountains yet at the ocean. And she said to me, oh, you belong in Hawaii. And I said, yeah, right. I'd never even been on a plane. And the thought of flying from Glendale, California to Hawaii, moving there, and everything was just so foreign. Well, I actually happened to meet a young man that same as Silmar, and we were very attracted to each other. And after a Silmar, he came down to my house, spent a couple weeks, and then we had this phone relationship going on. And then he asked me to come move in with him. And I packed up everything. I quit my job that I had had for 14 years, packed up everything, and moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, for two reasons. One, to be with Don Talbot, and two, to study with Reverend Helen Street. Well, the relationship only lasted a couple of weeks. Once we were there, I realized, no, this isn't what I wanted. And in fact, I realized that Don had really been a carrot that the universe had held up in front of me so that I would get to Hawaii. And I loved studying with Helen. Now, I had already done first year and second year in Religious Science International, which was what I was in. The years were called, Science Mind 100, Science Mind 200, 300, 400. Now, 300 was practitioner training, and I got there in time to start practitioner training with them. And at one time during the year, Helen asked me what was my plan for when ministerial classes were over. And I said to her, well, I was hoping to be her assistant minister for a while so I could get my feet wet, and then I was going to go out and, be the senior minister somewhere. And she said that that's what she was hoping. And so I was all excited about that. I knew I was going to end up there as the assistant minister. Well, at one point in fourth year, which was ministerial classes, all of us went to see the movie Witness with Harrison Ford. And I remember this scene so clearly in the movie where all these Amish people are out there building a barn for somebody, for one of their neighbors. And there's people cooking, and there's people playing music, and there's people sawing boards and hammering nails and all of that. And this feeling came over me, and I thought, oh my goodness. And I turned to Helen and I said, that's the way my church is going to be built. Well, a few months later, Science Mind 400, the ministerial, was over, and Helen took a month's sabbatical. It was August. And in that time period, one of my classmates, Sandy Shipley, took me out to lunch, and she said that Helen had asked her to be her assistant minister. And I tell you, I was so devastated because for 2 years, I knew, my whole plans were to be Helen's assistant. And I got really angry. And during this time as well, a man by the name of John Koister and his wife came from the Big Island to Honolulu and visited our center a couple Sundays and said, we wish we had one of these here. And I think that was before Helen went on sabbatical, because she said, why don't you talk to Jane? That's what my name was at that time. And they did talk to me about it, but you know, at that point I thought I was going to be the assistant, and I wasn't really interested in going anywhere and starting a church. Helen comes back at the end of August from her sabbatical, and I marched into her office and I said, "This isn't fair. You know, why did you ask Sandy to be your assistant minister?" And Helen just looked at me and she said, "It's consciousness." And I got so pissed, I got up and I walked out of the room. And a few weeks later, the boyfriend that I had at the time and I decided to go see what the Big Island was like. And so all during the weekend we're traveling. We started on the Hilo side and we traveled around, and I was hoping for a sign. I wanted a major sign. Am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to do this? And, you know, the days passed, the hours passed, no sign. And at the very end, just before we were going to leave, we were going to leave from the Kona side. So we were in the Kona side. Rick, my boyfriend, says, "I want to go snorkeling one more time." So we went to this place, and I don't remember the name of it right now, but we went to this place where not only there was the perfect snorkeling beach, but there was also a heiau. Now, a heiau is what the Hawaiians called a church, so to speak. And I'm sure that what was left of this heiau was a huge mound, a flattened mound of rocks, quite large. And there must have been some sort of, you know, building at one point with wood or whatever that had been destroyed. But I decided instead of going snorkeling, I would go up on the top of that heiau and I would do a prayer. And so I climbed up there, and I found a place that felt to me energetically like where the kahunas would have stood. And I'm standing there facing the ocean and the sky, and there was such a beautiful expanse. And I closed my eyes and I started to do a spiritual mind treatment. And in the back of my mind, there's this thing going, "Yeah, you're going to open your eyes and you're going to see this rainbow. And it's going to be the sign. You're going to have it. You're going to know." And so I finished my spiritual mind treatment, and so it is. And I opened my eyes and nothing. Nothing. And so once again, that disappointment comes over me. And so, well, I figured I might as well go snorkeling. So I walked a different way from how I had climbed up to get down off the heiau. And as I'm walking, I see the word love written in big white stones on the top of the heiau. And it's quite large. And if you've been to the Big Island, you know that's their graffiti. They do everything with white stones. So here's this word, love, spread out in front of me. And I noticed that the O is not complete. So being the fixer that I am, I look around for the stone to put in that space to make it complete. And I find it right in front of my big toe. So I pick it up and I set it down into that word, and I felt a jolt of energy go through me so much, I mean so strong, that all of a sudden I knew I was supposed to be on the Big Island. And I also knew that it wasn't supposed to be on the Kona side, it was supposed to be on the Hilo side. And with that knowing, we went back to Honolulu, and I packed up everything I owned and moved. And there was so many demonstrations. I mean, I moved into a beautiful house that would be big enough to have people meeting in my living room with no down payment. And in fact, I hadn't gotten my check yet from the work that I was doing in Honolulu, and told that to the lady that owned the home, and she let me move in anyway. I mean, things like that just kept happening. It was amazing. So we had the first service of that Hilo Church in my living room on February 2nd, 1986. And by August, we had the 50 people required to get a church charter. And those of you who are on Facebook saw the picture of Dr. Tom Costa and Dr. Helen Street making me an official minister and giving us our church charter at the Hilo Hawaiian Hotel. So when I think about all of this, that moment of time when I turned to Helen and whispered, "This is how we're going to build our church," became a dream for me. And it became a dream that was active. It became a dream that didn't get completed while I was in Hilo. I had left already by the time it did. But it became proof for me that a spiritual mind treatment is always active. And one of the reasons why it stayed active was because I shared that dream from the very beginning of that church. We met in a building in the middle of a parking lot on the second floor at Waiakea Villas, which is right on the edge of a lake. So from the second floor, we could see a really beautiful lake and, beautiful scenery. We then moved from there to a Buddhist boys' school that was over 100 years old, that thank goodness Tag was a carpenter because he was constantly repairing something. But it was a perfect place for us to meet. And from there we moved out to Paradise Park because that's where most of the people were coming from. They were coming into Hilo Town to come to church. So we moved out to where they were. And we met in a big park pavilion for quite a few years. And then we started renting. There was a school called the Malama Lama School, which is a Waldorf school. And they had a little house that they used as their kinderholly for the young kids. And they moved the young kids over to the big campus, so we rented out the house that they had as our office. And then they decided that they were going to sell it. And I started working on us buying it. It was totally through spiritual mind treatment. And at one point, I remember this day so well. I was sitting in my office. One of the bedrooms had become my office, of course. And I'm working on the stack of papers that the Hawaiian Bank had given me. I mean, like an inch thick stack of papers to create a mortgage so we could buy this building. I had already sent out a brochure with asking them to treat for it and including an envelope so that we had gotten lots of money for a down payment. So I'm sitting there, I'm so frustrated. I'm trying to call somebody. And of course, all the money stuff is done in Honolulu on Oahu, not on our island. So I'm trying to get information as to how to really fill out these forms. And this guy comes into the office, a guy that lived on a boat and traveled the world. He came to church maybe 2-3 times a year. That was it. He comes in and he says, "I hear that you're trying to buy this property." And I said, "Yeah, we are." I show him these papers. "I'm trying to fill out these papers." And he goes, "Stop." I said, "Why?" And he puts down a sack of money on the desk. I mean, a paper bag. And I look in this paper bag and it's like, oh my God, what's all this for? And he goes, "This is the down payment." He says, "Now you need to go to this realtor that was there close to us and sign some papers because I'm going to hold the papers for you." He bought the building and sold it to us, was selling it to us. So it was like, wow, all this stuff. I didn't have to file all those papers with the bank or anything. But it was just amazing to me how it came about and how this dream that was shared kept getting bigger and bigger. At one point, when it tags friends, drew plans for this wonderful pavilion that we could build to have our own building, our own church. And if you were to, if I had been able to share that picture, that video, I would have showed you a beautiful picture. It's got stained glass windows of the universe. It's just a beautiful, beautiful facility, and it was all done through that treatment that declaration that I made watching that Witness movie, and then treating about it over the years. And what I realized was a treatment doesn't ever end unless you end it. And I never ended it. In fact, what I did was kept making it bigger. Buying the little house. That little house is now their office, and the pavilion was built on the piece of property that we owned. And it happened the way I wanted it. I knew it was going to happen. It wasn't that they hired a contractor and he brought in his people and they built it. They had a contractor in the congregation that used the congregation to build that building. And I remember watching on Facebook as they'd post pictures of people staining the beams and making the stained glass windows even. The whole thing came about through the community sharing this dream. We're moving into a time that is ripe for new dreams. And we can create them personally, and we can create them as a community, and we can create them as a country, and we can create them as a planet. But we have to dream the dream and then share it. There's an African proverb that says, alone we can go faster, together we can go further. I love this idea because, if I try to do something myself, yes, I can probably do it faster, but it probably doesn't turn out as good as it would if I shared the dream. For instance, I wanted that pavilion to look like the one that we had been using all those years in that park, but I wanted it to be better. Well, not only do they have stained glass windows that are absolutely incredible, but even the bathrooms are done in mosaic. And the congregation was one lady came up with this design, like for the women's room. I'm not sure about the men's room, but she came up with the design of a forest with all these birds and animals and things, and she gave everybody greenware. She had fired the little pieces, and she asked them to paint them. And so even the bathrooms were done by a lot of different people. So together we can go further. And so that whole place is a work of art. So right now we're uniquely situated to foster a global community and a world that works for everyone. That's what one of our visions is as Centers for Spiritual Living, by sharing all the truths that we rely upon. So our questions, and maybe we could talk about these during coffee, is where in our individual lives or in our center or in our communities in the world can we embody hope and oneness? Because that is what we're bringing into the new age, so to speak, as we move out of the pandemic situation, is hope and oneness, an awareness of oneness. And where can we invite others along for the journey in a way that's radically welcoming, loving, and inclusive? Letting go of all the separation that we've been experiencing for the last year and a half, or almost 2 years. Dr. Holmes said, we're open at the top, with space for both dream and vision. This means we know our dreams can become reality when we choose to step fully into the intention. And like I said a minute ago, life is asking us to deliver something even greater than what we've had before. So what could that be? You know, in one of our groups, we were talking about, if I had a cause, what would my cause be? And of course, there was clean water, and there was letting go of the hatred and the things that have divided us racially, letting go of knowing that our environment is on a healing journey, not a place of devastation. Knowing that people have housing and prosperity and health. There's so many different causes that we can work on. And I think that they've all been brought to our attention now, because now is the time for us to really do what my last sentence is here. When we put spirit first and lead from there, we take positive action in our lives and communities and create something truly evolutionary. Truly evolutionary. I can't tell if I actually read that sentence correctly because there's little pictures covering it up. However, so this is what we've been talking. This is what I've been teaching. This is what we've been talking about in all our classes and our groups, is putting spirit first. And remembering the truth is, there is no place where spirit is not. Spirit is within us, acting as us, living through us. It's our life. It's the life force within us. Spirit's in everything, animate and inanimate. There isn't anything but spirit. And so as we allow ourselves to dream the dreams of what our perfect world or our perfect community, our perfect spiritual community would look like, and we let ourselves recognize that all of that is spirit, it might not come about right now, but it will come about slowly but surely. And one of the things I realized is that the work that we're doing right now is not really for us. It's for our children and our children's children and generations from now. I would much rather historians look back on this age as a period of time which we were thrown into a Renaissance period, where we started realizing what we've done to our planet, what we've done to each other, and we move from a place of recognizing the oneness of absolutely everything. I really believe that life is asking us to deliver something greater for our children. Now, what happens sometimes is that fear rushes in. We decide we're going to do something amazing. We begin to have a dream of a new world, and fear rushes in. And we begin to question our intuition. We begin to question whether we're the right ones to do it. But what I know is that we're being asked to step into our own greatness, to create and evolve, or as Ernest Holmes says, be open at the top. In so doing, we're lifting up our consciousness to a higher level. And so we need to feel the fear when it comes in, and yet know that that's not our truth. I don't remember who wrote that book. Might have been Melody Beattie or somebody back in the early 90s. That the book was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that's what our job is to do now. So I found this wonderful little meme, I guess, because we do know that in order to do anything out there, we have to do it in here at first. It all starts from within us. So here is some ideas. When you're alone, mind your thoughts. Isn't it when we're alone that all the, oh my God, can I really do this? Or the fear thoughts and everything come in. So when you're alone, mind your thoughts. When you're with friends, mind your tongue. When you are angry, mind your temper. When you're with a group, mind your behavior. When you're in trouble, mind your emotions. When God starts blessing you, mind your ego. I love these ideas. I think they're so perfect. And in particular, the last one, when God starts blessing you, mind your ego. I've found myself occasionally knowing, well, I treated for that, and that's why that came through. And yet, yes, it is. And yet, what really made it come through is my willingness to know that I'm working with both love and law, divine law, and that law works all the time. And as I said before, we don't know how much time we have left. And so I found this statement by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross that says, it's only when we truly know and understand that we have a limited time on earth that we will begin to live each day to the fullest as if it was the only one we had. And so every day, allow yourself to dream your dreams and to share them as much as you can. Because I know that this teaching works, even when we don't think it will, even when we're not there anymore. A treatment is an active thing until we choose for it not to be, or until we accept what we've attracted into our lives. So let's say this affirmation together, and then we'll go into prayer. Spirit unifies our purpose and resulting intention. We dream together of a kinder, more compassionate world, filled with goodness and light. That is the special blessing each of us contributes to the world. And so it is. And so let's take a breath. And think for a moment of that dream that you've had. I know we all have them, regardless of how old we are or how young we are, regardless of whether we're retired or still working, regardless of whether we've thought it was possible or not, we still have a dream. And so I know that this dream is like an intention that we've placed into the law, into divine law. And this intention is acted upon by this law as long as we're willing to let it be. And I know this is so because I know that God or Spirit or First Cause or whatever we choose to call it, this great divine energy that is the source and substance of absolutely everything that there is more than willing to set in action the law of attraction that brings to us these things that we're dreaming for. Our job is to have the dream. Our job is to surrender this dream to the universe, because it is the universe that creates, in, through, and as us. And so I celebrate each of us as we acknowledge our dreams, not only for ourselves, but perhaps for our center, and definitely for our country and our world, our planet. And I know that these dreams include more love, more grace, more kindness, more compassion, more willingness, more peace. And so I declare right now, for all of us, that we are the vanguard of a Renaissance period in our civilization's history. We're willing to recognize the healing power that is within us. We're willing to surrender our selves to that healing power. We're willing to know that what we're creating is magnificent, From this point on, what we're creating is absolutely magnificent. And I know that we each experience this in some way. And this is good, very good. And so even if our dream doesn't show up until we're gone, we know, and we know that we know, that treatment is active. Spiritual mind treatment is active until we choose it not to be. Until we choose the results or we give up and let go. So I celebrate each one of us because I know that within us all is this wonderful power. This power to create our dreams. And so we share our dreams, knowing the highest and best for everyone and everything. And gratefully I acknowledge this. Gratefully I celebrate this. Gratefully I know that this is our truth. And I release these words into this law of mind. And so it is.